Today we're taking a look at another classic standard. Let's take a look at the key signature. The key signature is an F sharp, which tells us that we're in the key of G, but we're starting with this opening chord, a pickup chord of a G7 leading to C major. So that gives us the impression that we're in the key of C. And then we go from the C major to the C minor. And that C minor to the F7 is a 2 and a 5 leading somewhere. You would expect this to be a 2-5 in the key of B flat. There will be more on that later. And then we finally get to the indicated tonal center of G. So in fact, what we're starting with here is the 4 chord. And then we move to the 4 minor, and it's related 2 chord, and then sort of a belated tonal center. And so this puts us in the key of G major, and then we have a 2-5 in A flat. So A flat being up a semitone from G major. Okay, and then we move back, semitone above G major is going to put us in A flat, right? And then we move back to G major, a 2-5 in G major, and then a 3-6 in G major. So this whole 4 measure section here is in G major. And then a secondary dominant, we call this a secondary dominant, not the secondary dominant. This is a secondary dominant. And it would be the dominant chord in the key of D. So in other words, this is the dominant of the dominant, if you will, the dominant of the D7. And what makes that a dominant and not just a minor is the raised third, right? So that's C sharp. So in a sol situation, you would want to define that C sharp. If you want to define the chord progression, which is usually a good idea. And then we have 2 and 5. And then let's just call it a semitone below the dominant, and it's just for a short duration, and then we're back to the C major. Now at this point, I should mention that the form of this tune is 16 measures, right? So we have these double bar lines, and they tell us, well, this is 8 measures. And then another 8 measures gives us 16 measures. So this 16 measures now repeats again, similar to All of Me, for instance. And 16 measures repeats again. It's exactly the same progression. C major, C minor, F7, C major, C minor, F7, G major, B flat minor, E flat 7. Exactly the same thing here. And then the next 4 measures is also repeated here, right? So we're up to the 12. These 12 measures at the beginning are the same as these 12 measures at the beginning of the B section, and then there's just a bit of a change. It sort of turns around back to the G major. Now let's have I've got a little chart that I wrote out here that sort of explains that, I think, in a simple way. This is the way I would probably, to put it in a simple way, memorize this tune. And it's important that you memorize every tune, because if you don't, it's very difficult to solo over something that you haven't memorized or internalized, if you will. So this is like a recap of what I just went over with the tune. So the A section starts on that C major. This is the red is the chart itself, so the chord progression itself. So C major, and then moving to the 4 minor and its related 2 chord. In other words, if we were to look at that as coming from a key, it would be the key of B flat. So this would be the 2 chord in the key of B flat. This would be the 5 chord in the key of B flat. So this is like doing a harmonic map, not just the chords and trying to memorize those chords, but we try to understand the chord's function and understand the modulations or the key changes that are taking place. So we start on the 4 chord, we go to the 4 minor and its related 5. Then we land on the 1 chord or the tonal center as indicated by the key signature. Then we're up a semitone to the key of A flat, which I have marked here. So A flat with 2 chord, 5 chord in A flat. And then we're back to G major again. For a whole 4 measures. We have the 2 chord to the 5 chord, the 3 chord to the 6 chord. Those are all diatonic. In other words, they all happen within out of the G major scale. So these are diatonic according to the scale. And then the A mixolydian, I've got this as A mixolydian because it's not, we're not in the key of G because of that C sharp. So we can just look at it as A mixolydian, which would be like an A major scale with a flat 7. And that gives us the C sharp in there. And then we have the 2, 5, and G major, and then that chromatic dominant landing back to the beginning, which is the. So here I've said that we're in the B section, but in the B section we just repeat the first 8 measures all over again. So no reason to sort of write them out again. So same thing from the top, C major, and then to the parallel C minor, F7, G major, B flat minor 7, E flat 7, right? And then the last 8 measures, from measures 17 to 24, we have the 2 chord, 5 chord, and then the 3 chord and the 6 chord, all in G major, as we had before as well. And then a quick A mixolydian to 2, 5 in G major, and then landing on G major finally, and then a turnaround 2, 5 back to the top. And so this is an excellent way to do analysis. You know, this kind of harmonic map. We've already discussed that the form is 32 measures long, 16 plus 16 measures, you know, sort of 2 chunks of 16 with just a very slight variation in the second 16, which turns us back around to the top. 32 measure form, probably the most common song form. And what you should always try to recognize to begin with when you're doing an analysis of any tune, look for the 2 5s first. Like where are my 2 5 chord progressions? And sometimes they will resolve. Let's see. Well, I guess. Yeah, there's not a lot of, let's see, do we have any resolving 2 5s here? There's one resolving 2 5 from D minor 7, G7 back to the top. That's a resolving 2 5, but here we have a 2 5 in B flat that doesn't resolve to B flat. So you have to be aware that some of these resolve and some of them don't. Also remember, I'm just going to go to a new plate here. Also remember how we get 2 5s. So in this case, we're in the key of C here. I have a C major scale. I take a note, skip a note, take a note, skip a note, take a note, skip a note, take a note, and that gives me when I do that from the tonal center of C, I end up with a C major 7. So in the key of C, we'd call that the 1 chord. And then I do the same thing again, take, skip, and so on. and terce and harmony, harmony in thirds, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and I end up with a D minor 7 in this case in the key of C, which gives me the 2 chord because this is built from the 2nd degree of the scale. So this is my 2 chord in the key of C, and then I do the same thing from the 5th degree of the scale, giving me the 5 chord, right? G, B, D, F, take, skip, terce and harmony once again. So a 2, 5 in the key of C would be D minor and D minor 7, G7 as 4-note chords. And they would resolve or want to resolve back to the C major 7. So, but what this tells you, excuse me, the other way around is that when you see a D minor 7 chord, you know or you assume that D minor 7 is a 2 and it comes out of the scale of C major. Yes, there are other considerations, but this is where you start. I'm not looking at, fancy altered scales and crazy stuff. This is like the foundational stuff that you get underneath your fingers and you can recognize it by hearing it, right? That's where you're going. And and the 5 chord, yeah. So I see a G7, I immediately think, well, that's in the key of C. If I start on a G, that gives me a G Mixolydian mode. If I start on a D, that gives me a D Dorian mode, if you want to look at it that way. But right now, the main thing is you understand how to structure those chords. So back to the chart. Here's Just Friends, and so let's just maybe listen to the melody. We start on the B, and you should take it up an octave. You can learn it down here. Right, but it's a little dark down there, and you can't really play chords underneath those melody notes. And immediately the melody goes to that minor 3. Immediately, G major, with the 9 on top. Two, 5. That's that dominant, secondary dominant. Repeating it again. And so that'll give you an idea how the melody goes, and I'm just putting chords beneath the melody notes in a chord melody style. We're not going to be looking at that chord melody style today. That's a whole a study in itself. All right, so but what are we looking at? I'm sort of doing this as preparation for the play along track, and learning how to play along with the play along track and make that a productive process. A good place to start is just to start sussing out where chords are on the fretboard. These are all just major 7 chords, and then do the same with each of the chords. Just get used to where these chords sit on the fretboard, and then what I usually do is just C major, C minor, or A flat, sort of, the same. major. All right, and then A flat. So work your way around the fretboard. Get used to the tune without the burden of tempo. Because once you get to the tempo, you don't want to be looking for, where's my scale. Here we start with C major and we go to B flat, just like we did with the mapping, and you start getting used to that. Then to G, and then to A flat, and then to 4 measures of G, secondary dominant, A mixolydian, which is the same as D major, but you have to start on the right, the right tonal center. You have to be clued into the right tonal center, and then 2, 5, and then that chromatic movement back down to the C. 2 times 16, giving us a total of 32 measures. So that's the way I would suggest adopting a tune like this. And when I say adopting a tune like this means like if you decide, gee, I like this tune, I can play over this tune, I can understand this tune, I can write out the changes, I know where the harmonic mapping is going, and I want to keep this as a tune that I'm going to play. And if you're going to do that, then you keep it, you adopt it, and you take care of it. You feed it and you practice it. And I would suggest this is a really good one. It's one of those tunes that everybody knows. Now, where does this chart come from? This chart comes from the real book. Now, I've had a couple of criticisms about, oh no, jazz players, no, they don't read her out of the real book. They just know things by, they can just play by ear. Yes, that's where I'd hope that everyone can go is being able to play by ear. But before you play by ear, you prep with something, whether it be a recording or whether it be a written chart or whether it be a combination of recordings and a written chart. There's lots and lots of substitutions. You have to start somewhere. This is where we're starting, with a chart from the real book. The real book was written at Berkeley at some time, and generally accepted as being pretty good changes. Right and wrong, subjective versus objective. That's philosophy. What we're doing here is just having a nice, strong, fairly objective representation of chords that most people would agree sound right. Okay. So that's it for this portion. For the next lesson, I'm going to move over to a play-along track, and we're going to discuss some ways to get through the changes within a play-along context. And as far as if you want to find this tune, just Google Just Friends, and you'll find the tune, and you'll find this chart as well, which makes it nice and easy, getting the material to use. And I would also suggest, if you're serious about learning about some standard jazz tunes, and you want to learn more, I would suggest buying the real book. It's a good book. Just get the latest edition. It'll have most of these tunes in it. Okay, that's it. And hope to see you in the next video. Remember to like, subscribe. All that's really important. You've heard this 1,000 times before, not from me. I usually forget. Or support me by buying one of my books. In this case, hey, I've got one right here. It so happens, right? This is what do I call it? Essentials for the Improvising Guitar Player. This is pretty in depth. It goes all the way from arpeggios to recognizing progressions and to common chord voicings and their alterations and so on. That's a good book. You can get it on Amazon. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you get something out of this. Make sure to stop by for the second video in this series, which is going to be Just Friends Play Along. Great. Thanks a lot. See you soon.